Dave was the most feared hitman in Japan. On that fateful night, he was in his secret workshop, meticulously sharpening his sword. Dave had been assigned the daunting task of eradicating the Yakuza Mafia that had dominated Shinjo City for decades. This was to be Dave's last job before he retired from the hitman life. Before diving into the mission, Dave took a moment to eat a bun. With all his preparations complete, he drove to the Yakuza hideout. Meanwhile, inside the Yakuza hideout, a lackey named Jay reported to the old Yakuza boss, Greg, that a new mafia group had taken over their port business and planned to challenge their authority. Greg, unfazed, simply smiled, confident that no one could stand against him. In a brutal display of power, Greg punished Jay for his failure to handle the new mafia group by ripping his mouth. Soon after, a loud noise erupted outside the hideout. It was Dave, ready to finish them all. Armed with his sword, he swiftly killed dozens of the Yakuza members. After defeating Greg's men, including Greg himself, one remaining Yakuza member attempted to kill Dave. Fortunately, Dave's friend, James, arrived to help, though James was a bit late, as Dave had already taken care of most of the Yakuza members. After the mission, James asked Dave about his retirement plans. Dave remained silent and walked away. Upon returning home, Dave was greeted by his beloved wife, Emma, and daughter, Mia. It turned out that his small family was the reason he wanted to retire. After taking a shower, Dave suddenly heard Mia scream. He cautiously approached the living room, where he found his wife and daughter being held hostage by 5 masked men. These men were revealed to be the new mafia group that had employed Dave and James to eradicate Greg's group. They didn't want Dave to retire because of his extraordinary killing abilities and his reputation as the devil of Shinjo City. When Dave tried to fight one of the members holding Mia, the leader of the masked men threatened to harm Emma, forcing Dave to back down. Dave pleaded with the leader to release his family, but the leader coldly responded by ending the lives of his wife and daughter right in front of him. Pushed to his breaking point, Dave swore he wouldn't die until he avenged their deaths. Tragically, his vow was cut short as he was shot in the head by the masked men. After the tragic incident, the news was manipulated by the mafia group to show that Emma and Mia's deaths were caused by Dave before he ultimately took his own life. Fast forward 12 years later, Dave was still alive, though he was paralyzed due to the nerve damage from being shot in the head. He was picked up by James, who now had an aide named Ron. Meanwhile, at the mayor's building, Mayor Steve of Shinjo was being interviewed by reporters and journalists about the city's remarkable progress. In just 12 years, Shinjo City had become very advanced and prosperous, even surpassing other major cities in Japan. Steve received praise from many parties, but there were still those who found the rapid development and the mayor himself suspicious, including a journalist named Bruce. Bruce questioned Steve about the mysterious cases that often arose, such as the weekly disappearances of teenage girls and the deaths of important figures in the city. The perpetrators had never been caught, and the truth remained hidden. Instead of providing answers, Steve evaded the questions by stating that everything was taken care of by the police. He warned Bruce that the city had rules and anyone who fought against them would be punished. James brought Dave to an apartment and instructed Ron to take care of him. One night, as Ron returned from a walk with Dave, someone suddenly attacked them and stabbed Dave's arm. It turned out to be one of Greg's lackeys whose hand Dave had once cut off. Seeing Dave's paralyzed condition, the attacker felt remorse and left without causing further harm. Elsewhere, Bruce hadn't given up on uncovering the mysterious cases surrounding Shinjo City. He hired Jay, a former member of Greg's Yakuza group, to find information about a mafia group suspected of being involved. After obtaining information from Jay, a masked man appeared and chased Bruce, beating him with a hammer. Jay, attempting to flee, was stopped by another masked man and forced to end his own life with a gun. James received a call from Ron informing him that Dave had been hospitalized after being stabbed. Meanwhile, Dave was being treated in the hospital, his room guarded by 2 policemen. Soon, their superior, John, approached and told them to take a break. After the 2 guys left, John sneaked into Dave's room. Turns out, he was part of the masked mafia crew that killed Dave's fam. He was there to finish off Dave on orders from the boss. John put poison in Dave's four, but when he went to snap a pic of Dave kicking the bucket, Dave miraculously leaped out of bed and tried to take him down. His thirst for payback magically cured his paralysis. Even though he tried, John was still able to overpower him and take him down, right as the 2 cops came back. John, who was caught in the act, claimed he was just trying to help Dave, who fell off the bed. But one of the cops didn't believe him, so John ended up killing him. It turned out the other cop was actually involved with a masked man mafia. John never expected Dave to be up for a fight, but then Dave surprised everyone by not backing down. He ended up throwing another cop off the roof and strangling John with a bedsheet. James and Ron were totally surprised when they saw the cop take a tumble off the building and Dave hobble out of the hospital. Dave grabbed a bun, and then all of a sudden, he thought about his wife and daughter's deaths, and miraculously, he was able to fully recover from his paralysis. Over in another spot, there was this factory that belonged to one of the mafia dudes, Sean. But it wasn't actually a waste processing place like it said on the outside. Turns out they were making drugs there. Sean was keeping an eye on things when he called up another mafia guy, Ken, who was running their human trafficking gig at the port. He gave Ken a heads up about Dave, who recovered from being paralyzed and was out for revenge for his family. Right after the call, Ken told James to take out Dave, but James, who was buddies with Dave, had a sneaky plan to help him get back at the masked mafias. Shortly after the tragic events, James and Ron made their way to the waste management factory, carrying Dave in a body bag. The plan was to make Sean believe that Dave was dead. Upon arrival, Sean's men dutifully threw Dave's body into the grinding machine, unaware of what was about to happen. Just as Dave was about to be ground up, he burst out of the body bag and launched into a fierce fight against Sean's men. Sean, quickly learning of Dave's reckless action, immediately instructed the gate guard to stop James from leaving the factory. The guard did not hesitate to shoot Ron and James. When the guard went to check on James's body, he discovered, to his surprise, that James was still alive. In a swift move, James shot the guard dead. Meanwhile, Dave was locked in an intense battle with dozens of Sean's men. Armed with his intelligence and trusty sword, he methodically took down most of Sean's men. When Dave went searching for Sean, he found him outside the factory, holding a remote in his hand. With a sinister smile, Sean detonated the factory, hoping to eliminate Dave once and for all. The explosion was so massive that it caught the attention of the masked mafia leader. Initially, Sean believed that Dave had perished in the explosion. However, to his shock, Dave emerged from the wreckage, bruised but very much alive. Sean, panic-stricken, aimed his gun at Dave, but just then, James showed up and crashed into Sean with his car, leaving him severely injured. James, in a moment of remorse, confessed that he had informed the masked mafia leader about Dave's plans to retire. He apologized, but Dave was consumed with rage and couldn't forgive him. Without hesitation, Dave shot James dead. Turning his attention back to Sean, Dave began to torture him mercilessly. Suddenly, Sean's cell phone rang. The caller was none other than the leader, who revealed himself to be the city's mayor, Steve. In a chilling conversation, Steve expressed his regret for letting Dave live but remained unafraid of him. Steve also revealed a shocking truth. Dave's daughter, Mia, was still alive and in his custody. He threatened to kill her if Dave attempted to fight back. This news left Dave stunned, but it also reignited his burning desire for revenge. Fueled by this revelation, Dave let Sean die a slow and painful death. Mia had actually grown up to be a high schooler. It turns out she had been living with Kent ever since she was taken from Dave 12 years ago, and he had convinced her that he was her dad. Kent got a call from Steve, who told him that Dave found out Mia was still alive, so Steve warned him to be careful. Meanwhile, Dave went to see his old informant, Tony, a former cop, to get info on the masked mafia. Since Tony owed Dave a favor, he helped him out and even gave him the addresses of the mafia members. Tony also showed Dave a video of the mafia killing the owner of Shinjo City Security Company, which Kent now owned. Tony said no one had dared to challenge the mafia since they took over big companies, and even the police department. Once Dave found out Kent was in the security company office, he headed over there right away. When he arrived, he started taking down some of Kent's guys. Then he went into Mia's room, but she heard him coming and quickly hid, not knowing the one coming was her real dad. Dave saw some pics of Mia and Kent. Then all of a sudden Kent appeared, but when he saw Mia, he tried to act like he didn't know Dave and hid his gun. Dave and Kent ended up getting into a fight, and in the middle of it, Mia shot Dave with her arrow. It was then that Dave finally saw his daughter again after being apart for so long, but he got really mad when Mia called Kent her dad. Kent then purposely threw Dave out the window, but luckily Tony was there to save him. In short, while Tony was patching up Dave's wound, he got a call from Steve telling him not to get involved. Steve also said that Mia was in danger and being taken to his base. Dave wasted no time and went to save Mia, but not before stopping by his secret workshop to grab his weapon and then speeding off in his old car. When Dave got to Steve's place, he took out a bunch of bad guys. Then he ran into Kent and they started fighting. During the fight, Dave remembered that Kent was the one who shot his wife. That made Dave even more determined to beat him, and he finally did. After that, he went upstairs to see Steve, but before he could do anything, he got jumped by a mafia dude wearing a red mask and got knocked out. Next thing he knew, he was being brought to see Steve. Steve told Dave about the devil that shows up every 55 years in Shinjo City. Even though most people thought it was just a myth, Steve was convinced that the devil was real and that his mission was to take it down. He was suspicious of Dave at first being the new devil in the story, but when he saw how easily Dave was caught, he figured he was just a regular guy. When Steve was going to kill Mia with his sword, Tony showed up shooting in all directions. Mia ran towards Tony, and Dave got back up to fight the red masked man named Clark. Clark was good at fighting, but Dave ended up killing him. After watching Clark get killed, Steve a flashback to their childhood. It turns out they were actually twin brothers from the same martial arts school and had promised to always have each other's backs. Then one night, they both did something crazy and killed their own teacher. Dave and Steve had a fight, but since Dave was already really hurt, Steve was able to beat him easily and even cut off one of his arms. Even though things were looking pretty bleak, Dave didn't give up. He gathered all his strength and managed to take down Steve. That's when Steve realized that Dave was the new Shinjo demon. In the end, Dave came out on top. After Steve lost, Mia went back to see her actual dad. It finally came back to her that Dave was her father. Just then Kent, who was still kicking, tried to attack, but before he could get to Mia, Dave took him out. In the end, Dave felt relieved because he took down all the masked mafia members and managed to avenge his wife's death, but he ended up dying in Mia's arms because he lost too much blood. Meanwhile, after the intense battle, when a medic came and took away Clark's body, it was revealed that he was actually still alive. In short, a year later Clark, who was still alive, took over as mayor replacing Steve. Then, one day while doing a ritual dance, Mia managed to kill him, and now she's taken over as the toughest hitman in Japan.